Hey guys.
Hi. How
Hi,
you
Frank.
doing?
How you doing? Let me get my.
Good,
Thank you.
Let
Thanks for
me get
giving us
full
some of your time today.
Yeah, cool. Hey, you guys picked 3 of my movies. How can I resist?
Yeah,
Let me get you full screen. Hang on. All right. All sound. Do I sound fine?
perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, cool. Wait. So where are you guys all located?
So we're all in like southwest of England. So
Cool.
good timing for us. And 8 o'clock in the evening, all settled down. We've watched all 3 films back in the last couple of days to give ourselves a refresh again. So we've had a good few nights watching them.
Cool. Thanks. I need the residuals, so it's good. Not a whole lot of movie making going on during this pandemic. Did you guys shut down again?
Not
They're
yet.
kind of threatening it in the hope that it stops people before they have to literally like kind of put it in stone, I think.
Yeah, all my friends from London, I'm like, what are they? They're like going out every night with no mask. Insanity.
Yeah, thankfully we're not down there, so it's not as bad for us.
Cool. Well, thank you for putting all 3 of my movies on your list. I'm flattered.
Yeah. I mean, so we used to talk about sports and everything shut down, as we just referenced. So we've gone back through everything that we've kind of liked through our lifetimes, really. These films being some of them, and obviously no one better to speak to than the man behind the camera.
That would be me.
If we kind of do them in order, so we're not taking you from The Wedding Singer to here to there kind of thing. I mean, The Wedding Singer, at least on IMDb, is your second credited role as a director. And then you kind of have the small task of doing Adam Sandler's first film post Happy Gilmore, where he's probably like as big as he's been at this point. So how do you get to that point of taking over a Wedding Singer and directing the film that you go on to do?
How did they get me to be the guy?
Yeah, so
me and Adam go way back to NYU Film School, so we know each other since we're 18. He used to do stand up, and then we befriended each other, and we used to just make each other laugh all the time. And then he's in a bunch of my short student projects, and then we used to just jam and write funny songs, and I'd go see him do stand up, and we'd give him feedback, and we'd watch him go. He was great because he'd go up there and just fail miserably on a Monday night. And by Friday, he'd figure out his whole act, and we were sort of his sounding board. And go back to the dorm, smoke some weed, figure out how to make it funnier. So I had that relationship with him, and then I'll try to do this quick. I had done a movie, a little film noir. I like kind of dark stuff too, believe it or not. And Adam was having his success in L.A. Doing Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. Billy Madison, one of my favorites, by the way. I don't know if it made your list is great, by the way. I don't know if Billy was on there, but it is one of my favorites, along with That's My Boy of Sandler. So just to cut to the chase, he was doing an album, a comedy album, and he said, "Come out here and work on the album. This is what we do really good." So I worked on What the Hell Happened to Me. And we did a bunch of skits, and they became like stoner favorites. Like there was a Talking Goat skit. I play the old man. So I performed and I wrote on some of them. But then I did a music video for one of the songs, Steve Polychronopoulos. And then I did, we did a tour of the concert, some of the songs, like the Hanukkah song and all his collection of comedy songs, mixed with like Led Zeppelin and shit like that. And I did all the visuals. And one of the things I did was a visual of a talking goat from the skit that was a real big crowd pleaser, and it opened the concert, and it was a stone goat, and it just struck a chord. And New Line Cinema was courting Sandler to do a movie, and they approached us and said, "Hey, we want you guys to do the goat movie." And we're like, "That's cool. Like, that'd definitely be a good movie." But we're like, "We got this other idea. We think Sandler's ready to do a romantic comedy." And I had an idea of doing an 80s movie, and Hurley and Adam had the idea of doing a Wedding Singer, and we pitched it to a producer, and we pitched it to New Line, and then the rest is history. So I literally came out to LA to work on the album with like a bag full of clothes for like a week, and I stayed for 2 years, and I had done the Wedding Singer and the Waterboy back to back. So it was kind of a really productive trip.
We were going to ask about your relationship with Adam, actually. So you've given us a head start there.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's just a great all-around guy and loves to work with his friends. Now he's a great dad, and I love seeing him stretch his acting muscles in movies like Uncut Gems, and
Yeah.
he did a bunch of great movies before that too. Like I thought, Reign Over Me, he was amazing. Punch Drunk Love. He's a great actor. I feel like you guys are gonna get to it, but Click was also one of my favorite performances he's ever given. It was really genuine, but I'll let you get to that on your own.
We're thinking like with The Wedding Singer as it is, and as good as it is, a large amount of the success obviously is kind of backed up by the soundtrack because you kind of associate the two with each other. So how tough was that to tie down all of those songs? Because we've spoken to other directors and they say you kind of have in your mind the songs that you want, but it's not that easy in terms of getting the rights for them to have them in the film.
Well, this is the great thing about doing an 80s movie. A lot of those bands were one-hit wonders. And so they were actually fucking cheap. You know what I mean? It was like you can get, even some successful ones like the Thompson Twins. That song, I don't know what the numbers are now, maybe 10 grand or something, where, there is like a couple of hit songs in our movie and usually you can't afford them. But like the Bruce Springsteen Hungry Heart, I think is like $250,000 for a song. So yes, you normally can't afford those big artists, but luckily most of our songs were not huge selling artists, so we got a lot of the songs for like 5 grand, 10 grand, and it was a double platinum soundtrack. We put out 2 soundtracks, and those were the days when people actually bought soundtracks. I have it on my wall. There it is.
That's awesome. Very cool.
I got a platinum record.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, and that was it's funny because I was more of the new wave guy. Adam's more, more pop when it came to the music, but we overlapped a lot with things like the Smiths and the Cure. But it was funny because he would be like, I want to put Hall & Oates. And I'm like, nah, let's put Haircut 100. But I think the meshing of me and him together works really well creatively because we end up doing stuff that everybody likes. I might go too far off into weirdo land.
I guess on a similar note, how did the iconic "Somebody Kill Me" song come about? And did you know straight away that's going to be a bit of a show stealer? Me and Sandler both had an affinity for the Cure, and we thought it was so essentially 80s and that sort of emo. We didn't even say emo then, but it was emo, brokenhearted. Went so well with the character, and Adam had the idea of writing that song, and thought, it would be really funny if I wrote half before I met her and half after, so it goes from genius.
A suicidal song. And I mean, that's some of Sandler's genius is knowing the stuff that's going to strike a chord like that. And I think when we filmed it, we knew it would be a crowd pleaser.
We spoke to Tony Orlando, who's on That's My Boy, and he was telling us some things about it, and he was saying that he was kind of told beforehand that he wasn't going to have to swear the entire time, and then they get to the scene in the spa. Adam pulls him to one side and
we're
tells
gonna
him,
get our dicks.
He said to him, like, you've got to do this. It's going to be hilarious. So as you said, he knows exactly kind of the little things that's just going to.
Yeah, it's funny. I met Tony during that time, and I go, oh God, I go, now forever. When you walk down the street, that's what people are going to say when they see you. And he's such a sweet, like he's a religious, good guy, but he bit the bullet and he did it. And it is one of the funniest lines I think, and That's My Boy. Again. That I gotta say, give credit where credit due. I think that's one of the funniest Sandler movies. Obviously making it rated R makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
But they handled that really well, and that did a good job or great job directing that.
And because he's done like the songs and things before, I guess it's not as awkward as getting a different actor onto set and saying you're gonna sing now in a film, and someone kind of go into their shell a bit. And he's done all that before, so I guess he just embraces it, and it works a charm too.
Yeah, sorry, who were you referring to though?
Adam Sandler. So I mean, him going on and singing, he's done plenty of that before, so it's not quite.
Well, songs have been a part of his comedy, and I don't know if you saw his most recent
Netflix special,
and some of those, Phone Wallet Key. I don't know, some of those songs are fucking genius. But that's been since the college days. He always had his guitar, and we would jam and come up with funny. I mean, I have hours and hours of videotapes of songs we could never ever show. The unfiltered.
You never know what trivia you see is correct and what isn't. And was looking at some last night for The Wedding Singer, and you get the casting what ifs, and they say that the role of Glenn was originally written with Jim Carrey in mind, and then Charlie Sheen, Matthew Broderick, and Chris McDonald, who played Shooter McGavin, were all considered for the role. Are any of those?
No,
just someone chucking names out there.
Well, crap. Yeah. That guy Glenn came into the audition. His name was Matthew Glave, and what a great. He's like a theater guy. He's such a good guy, and man, nobody could have played that role better. All those names are great. Obviously, Jim Carrey's great, but I mean, there was something about the way he played it, and it was so genuine. And I'll give you a small anecdote to show you what a good actor he is. He goes, Frank, do you mind if when she wakes me up, I wake up and I'm chewing gum? And I go, yeah, that's funny. That's like a really unlikable thing. He goes, yeah. He goes, I had a roommate, and I fucking hated this guy. And I came home I woke up one morning, and he was asleep in front of the TV from the night before he got wasted. And he had a sandwich in his hand, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that he was eating while he was drunk. And when I woke him up, he woke up and he started finishing the sandwich that was in his mouth. What a repulsive thing. And he goes, can I do that? I was like, yeah, that's fucking brilliant. So he's such a great actor, and I'll never forget that strange little acting choice. And it really, I think it really worked. So am I dark here? I don't know what's happening.
No,
you're fine. No, you're fine. Thank you.
If you think the list for that role is long, the list of people that they say were linked to play Julia's role, there's about 20 names, and it's from Jennifer Lopez to Jennifer Aniston, Cameron Diaz, Katie Holmes, Jennifer Love Hewitt.
All right, so this is 100% true. We conceived of the idea of doing a romantic comedy. We had the 80s idea, and New Line at the time had just done Scream with Drew, and they really liked her, and they said, hey, will you guys meet with Drew to talk about doing the movie? And we're like, that could be the coolest thing ever. The girl did E.T. and at the time she had done some other smaller movies and wasn't in the spotlight as much. And we met with her and immediately like, oh my God, this girl is going to be, we already knew who she was, but we were like, as a romantic lead and funny and lovable, like one of the most lovable, I couldn't imagine any of those names, and they're all good actors. So Drew actually got delivered to us from New Line, and we met her and said, there's nobody better. And obviously those two have had amazing chemistry together on screen. So it's like one of those historic, I think, couples, Fred and Jim.
We were going to ask about that. Sorry, Keenan, carry on.
I was going to say, it worked out. It's worked out pretty well from The Wedding Singer to 51st Dates to Blended. So, there's obviously something there. So people like to see him. So, to have, I know you don't know at the time, but to have that hand delivered to you, you can't really ask for a lot more, can you?
No. It was wonderful. It was not zero hesitation, especially after we met her. We're like, oh my God, the world's going to fall in love. And obviously they have on everything she's done.
Yeah.
She's super cool.
Adam come with you to that meeting, or is it kind of strictly you? So do you see that with them?
We did together.
This is going to work.
Yeah, totally.
We thought as well, and you just mentioned Drew, as we have, the success of this film compared to some other like Adam Sandler films is that this one isn't just an Adam Sandler film, like say the Waterboy you associate kind of solely with him for the most part, whereas this is like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore films that you kind of wouldn't have the success if you had anyone else playing Drew Barrymore as you would if you have those two alongside each other. So the gelling of those two really completes it.
I think what was interesting too about The Wedding Singer, in a weird way, listen, an actor always plays a character, and Adam became Robbie Hart, and Robbie Hart, there's a lot of Adam and Robbie Hart. He loses his temper, but to me it was a testament for the first time of what a good actor he was, because I knew he had romantic lead in him after Billy Madison, but Billy was an extension of Adam Sandler. Happy Gilmore was an extension of an Adam Sandler character, his sort of comedy persona. And Robbie Hart had tendencies, but he did become this sweet, not that Adam is sweet and he's a good guy, but I don't know, he really was an actor in a way that he became Robbie Hart, and the character wasn't as like Big Daddy Adam's playing closer to Adam, and he loves doing that too. But then he always goes, I'd rather play myself. I don't want to be a liar. And I'm like, it's not lying, it's acting. And obviously he's great because he's not the guy in Uncut Gems, And he played that brilliant. I mean, that's one of my favorite performances because he's such a fucking asshole, but you like him and root for him. And that to me is an amazing talent, this the innate charisma and choices he made. And I'm pumping up all his other movies too, but it's just true. But yeah. So I think Robbie Hart was a little bit different than a lot of things. Yeah, the Waterboy was a version of Canteen Boy. I don't know if you know Canteen Boy was a character he did on SNL. And by the way, the new movie he has out now, he's a little bit Canteen Boy meets the Waterboy, if you see it. He has a movie.
I don't think it's out here yet.
It's coming out October.
Yeah,
it's not out yet, but it's you'll see the trailer.
Yeah,
it's a throwback a little bit to a socially dysfunctional character, and it's a Halloween movie. It looks pretty cool. I didn't see the whole movie yet. I usually do, but I didn't yet.
With him in this one, do you have to hold him back a bit, because you can go so many places with his character, and we see, say, That's My Boy is the prime example of where he can run loose and he can do this and that, whereas he does need to be a bit more refined with Wedding Singer to keep everything flowing smoothly.
You know, we created the movie together. We know the tone, so we know to give him a playground. You know, Love Stinks is his chance to be angry. You know, and I think everything's very organic in the movie. When he yells at his girlfriend, you know, good things I should have known yesterday. You know, it's like it was organic. We were letting him do what he does, but it came out of the character. But the same way we approached The Wedding Singer, like we approached The Waterboy, as much as The Waterboy is like a comedy character, we kind of were like, it's kind of Rain Man, but funnier. We were like, you are this guy. You're not, you know, some comedians will just play a character, but we played it like it was a drama, and it just happens to be funny. You know what I mean? We're like, you commit to being the Waterboy. You commit to being, so everything really tracks. When he fights with his mom and he's like, I like her boobies. They're like real moments that could happen. I mean, the world was a little crazy and crazy giant catfish and snake, but we kind of commit to the tone. And, you know, that's why I think you've got some great movies on your list, like Shaun of the Dead. Those are hard movies to pull off because you have to create a tone. Edgar's great, by the way. I'm a big fan of his, Edgar Wright. It's about staying committed to the tone. And I think when movies go wrong is when, you know, you go, it's too over the top, or you have to create the world and the tone, and you have to stay committed. And I was always down on, you know, I wanted to do weird art movies when I got out of film school, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing comedies. You know, and Americans think they're dumb. The Brits are really smart because they realize they're harder. And one day I realized it's a lot easier to do a drama because it's straightforward. Comedy, you can just get it wrong a lot easier. And at some point I was like, oh, maybe I should just embrace this comedy thing. I got a knack for it. So, I've always respected the Brits for getting that comedy is you know, I think you guys revere it much more than we do here. You know, the people like comedy here, but the critics tend to be you know, shit on it. Yeah.
I think, I mean, with the thing with getting it wrong more, the problem with a drama, with drama, you as you say, if you play it linear and play it seriously, there's only depending on the subject matter, there's only going to be a certain amount of people that you can upset. There's going to be a limit to the amount of people you can upset. When you're trying to make a comedy, you can upset people for a multitude of reasons. So it is a lot harder to try and get tone and to know. It always seems to be: do you want to be subtle? Do you want to be on the nose and straight in your face? And when do you want to do it? And when to pull back? So to me, the reason we love it, and half the reason we love it, is how things are arrived at, where it comes from, and what decisions are made about where you want to go with it.
Yeah, an analysis I had one day, I was looking at my dog one day when I was stoned, and I'm like, okay, I can scare him. He can be happy. He can be sad. I'm like, and I always try to make him laugh, like pop out from, and then he just doesn't get it. And I thought, well, he's definitely not going to get irony. And so I was like, wow, so comedy is about intelligence. I'm like, you know, what animals laugh? And I'm like, monkeys and maybe dolphins and humans and maybe gorillas. And I'm like, okay, that's when I said it was like, oh yeah, comedy is actually the most layered, the most sophisticated communication. It's like articulating why something's funny is such an abstract thing. And that's why I work with Steve Coogan a bit. And he's one of these really analytical people. And me and him love to actually analyze why something's funny. It's like, well, if we take a micro pause before that, it's like, yeah, that makes it fun. Yeah, it's fun to, I've gotten to work with some great comedians, Adam, Kevin James, Steve Coogan, and it's fun to be in these crazy minds with them and be a part of making some of their comedy translate to the big screen. And I realized at some point I'm not bad at this. Thank you for confirming that for me, because I was gonna. I won't change careers now. I'll stay to movies.
It's gone okay. It's funny you say about critics' reviews. It seems half of the time with this bracket we spent defending Adam Sandler films against some of the critics' reviews. We've kind of read them like, have they seen the same film as we have? Because this is genius.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I decided to tune them out, but it's hard to not be effective. But like, I literally say there was not one laugh in the movie, and especially we preview our movies, and honestly, when you preview a movie, no matter where you go, I mean, obviously region to region it changes, but generally when we preview a movie in one state, sometimes we've done it in another state, they laugh a little more, a little less, but the same laughs. It's like, it's like, so I know it's almost a science that if people laugh at a movie, they laugh at a movie. So when I have a critic go, there wasn't one laugh in the movie, I'm like, where the fuck did you see the movie?
Yeah.
Like in your room alone, angry at your mother or something? But yeah, it is crazy. I think at some point, there's a certain weird bias by a lot of these sort of armchair critics, and it's funny because I'll give you an example. When the Waterboy came out, I can't remember. I mean, you should watch the Siskel and Ebert review, because one of them trashes it, and the other one goes, "I can't believe you," and I go, "Oh, great, he's gonna like it." He goes, "You even watched the movie?" And I go, "Well, that is the quintessential thing you can't say, because it's like that's obviously your bias." But at the same time as the Waterboy came out, Kingpin came out with Woody Harrelson. It was the Farrelly brothers, and they talked about the Waterboy having fart jokes and being sophomoric. And I'm not going to say it wasn't sophomoric at times, but there wasn't really a fart joke. And Kingpin, which I thought was a really funny movie, had literally fisting a bull. I mean, like they went. That's the Farrelly brothers. They go for that shock value, and that was revered by the critics. And you realize there's a certain. A lot of critics adhere to this, like we're supposed to like this and we're not supposed to like Adam Sandler, and it's really horrible because Blended came out and we felt so good about the movie. I'm proud of that movie, and I thought it was a really cool romantic comedy. It was about something different. It was about two people liking each other because they're parents, and it's like a good intention, and all the kids that worked on it were so proud of the movie. And I saw these little kids that are great, sweet actors, and they were crushed when the reviews were just like, it was, and it's like, it holds up. Kids, like, I have babysitters go, my kids, I don't watch the movie 5 times. Like, it's weird how people decide that there's certain movies they can like and certain movies they can't like. And, it's unfortunate, but I wish more critics were filmmakers. If you go back to the French New Wave days, Truffaut and Godard, they actually had a film. I don't know if they called it critic, but they had a magazine called Kaiju Cinema, and it was filmmakers on filmmakers. And I feel like they were more, I think it shouldn't be called a film critic. I think they should be called film enthusiasts. And instead of trashing movies, they should tell you about movies that you need to see.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing would function from a positive place as opposed to them wanting to have to trash a movie. I'm biased.
When we look back on That's My Boy, they're the harshest critics reviews we've ever seen. I mean, I've got 2 written down. One of them says, "If you'll excuse me, I'm going to watch something funnier than That's My Boy. It's a video of my mother being torn apart by bears," is the first one. And there was another one that said, "This film contains scenes of incest, masturbation, gerontophilia, statutory rape, and Adam Sandler." And it's like, if he wasn't as thick-skinned as he is, seeing them, he wouldn't make half the movies he does now, but clearly he just brushes it off and onto the next one.
Yeah, what else can you do? And at the end of the day, it's always been more important how people feel about our movies, and usually the users, not the critics, those numbers are usually pretty high. And those numbers, by the way, are doctored too, because some people will just click on negative on Adam because they decided that. It's horrible. It's like, I mean, the world right now, we're in need of integrity, and it's been happening. The internet, and I love technology. I love the internet, but in a lot of ways, it created people having no empathy at all because you don't have to see the face of the person. I've written back a few times to people and said, "Hey, sorry you didn't get." I'll be nice about it. I'll take the high road and say, that wasn't really our intention. You know, we were thinking it was this, and I remember one of the critics wrote back, "Wow, I forgot directors are human beings. I'm sorry." You know, he like retracted what he said. So, you know, what can we do? Anyway, we make them for people to have fun, and it obviously works because you guys have enjoyed our movies, and making a list like yours means the world to me more than it does to be, you know, Siskel and Ebert saying we're great.
How nervous were you? How nervous were you when the day The Wedding Singer comes out? Because you've spent so long doing, obviously, this. You've got Adam Sandler.
Well, we shot in 34 days, but yes, it was a lot of pressure. And it was funny. It was a little extra pressure because Sandler came off. It's not a bad movie, but it didn't do well. Bulletproof, and so we were like, geez, you know, and early on in your career, you don't want to have, you know, 2 box office not hits in a row. But we had shot the movie. But you remember, we weren't really on the map in a big way, right? So the expectation was we just have to do a little better than Happy Gilmore, which did well, but it was a smaller, 27 million, I think, the box office at the time. And so we were shooting The Waterboy because we held the movie till Valentine's Day because we thought, oh, it'd be cool to have a Valentine's Day movie with Sandler. It was a great date movie. The boyfriend will go, yeah, I'll go see a Sandler movie. And it's a romantic comedy. So we were shooting The Waterboy. We went to the premiere. And it was probably the best day of our life. We rented a bus. It was me, Drew, Sandler, Jack, my roommate, who was a producer, Covert, the limo driver. It was like all our buddies, Lachlan, I got the Crooked Eye. And it was about 20 of us on a bus the night of the premiere. And we were going from, and this is like, now you kind of know going in what you're going to make with all the data, technology, whatever, the data. We would go into a theater on the bus. It's funny. I remember we were playing Daft Punk Around the World just came out. We're dancing on the bus, and we'd go into a theater, and we'd hide in the back, and Adam had his baseball hat on, and we would walk into theaters, and this is in Manhattan, and they're like, it's sold out on 4 screens. And we'd walk into the, I've never seen theaters, literally not a seat left. We'd sit on the floor and watch the movie for 5 minutes. And then we'd jump back on the bus and start dancing to Daft Punk. So it was literally like we didn't see it coming. We were hoping to do okay. And it was like, relatively, it was a fucking smash hit. And it was like, the biggest thing for me is like, you just want your movies to do good, so you get to keep making movies. It's like it's an amazing privilege to make movies, and I always like, I don't care about the money. I just want to be able to keep doing this as long as I can do it.
Well, you got the Waterboy. Oh, sorry, Kim.
So I was going to say, you mentioned obviously now you know when a film comes out now, you know roughly you've got an expectation of what it's going to do because of technology. Do you miss the anticipation? I know there's some worry, but do you miss the butterflies and the nerves?
What's missing now is because of Netflix. When you have a movie on Netflix, you don't have a big opening. I mean, they advertise and stuff, which is always fun. And I love the idea of Netflix because everyone can see your movie, and most people see most of my movies, believe it or not, even though they're theatrical, most of them. In the end, I think 100 million people see it on TV over the course of time, but only 10 million people, if you're lucky, see it in the theaters. So when it comes to the streamers, I did Ridiculous 6, and you have a big premiere on a big screen, and you're like, oh, that's fucking cool. It looks great, a Western. And then you're like, okay, tomorrow everybody's going to see it on their TVs. And there's no, like, your friend will be like, hey, I happened to catch your movie this week. It's like, it definitely, I miss that when it comes more to, less about the box office anticipation, more about just that,
the occasion.
That opening in theaters excitement. Although at the same time, I do love Netflix because they're getting, and streamers, because so many movies that wouldn't have gotten made are getting made. So it's a double-edged sword, but it makes me. I'm in the middle of doing the movie Sinbad, and I'm doing that because I want to do a big epic, action adventure that has to be seen in the theater. So Hope I answered your question.
No, thank you.
About how pleased you are just that you can keep making them. I don't know if you've been told this particular stat before, but The Waterboy is the highest grossing sports comedy of all time, ahead of you've got The Longest Yard, Talladega Nights, Blades of Glory, Dodgeball, and you got The Waterboy on top of there. So that must be something that really makes you proud there.
That movie to me is a phenomenon because we just was a character. We used to make each other laugh. We had this kind of Bobby Boucher was more of this weird guy that, I don't know if you ever go to supermarkets, the guy that they hire that's a little off. and he just in America, and they had just hired him to collect the baskets.
Get the shows.
Yeah.
And we always just used to do it when we were make each other laugh. We have video footage of like this weirdo guy, and then to make it into a movie that was about football, and we all love football. I'm shocked when my British friends and the worldwide audience eventually caught on to that movie, because I mean it's a lot of football and there's a lot of knowing the rules of football. So it baffles me that it traveled so well. Not when it came out, it didn't. It was an American hit, but over years, and I actually for years always heard more about The Wedding Singer when people walked up to me and said, "Oh, you did that." And as time goes on, and I think it's because the kids that are watching it, they don't gravitate to romantic comedies when you're a little kid growing up. So all these next generations, I think, have grown up with The Waterboy, which I'm flattered and honored, and I'm so psyched that I worked with Conor McGregor and on a comedy commercials. They're pretty funny if you see them. They're like little movies. And when he found out I did The Waterboy, he was just like ecstatic. He's like, "That's my fucking baby." I'm like, "Oh, this kid's 28 or whatever. Now he's 30, whatever." Yeah, I was like, "Oh, it's so cool that the next generations are still embracing this movie that we made 20 years ago." It's really awesome.
Yeah, I can remember in school at the end of term when there's not much work going on, there's always someone that would bring in a DVD, and I can pinpoint it because I know at the start of secondary school, The Waterboy would. Someone had it on DVD, and so every lesson you'd end up just seeing the first hour, and then this lesson would end. But so like word for word, and then at the end of school, I can remember Click was the DVD that was brought in, and so we would see that constantly throughout. I saw that in the cinema as well, so it ties in quite nicely.
Oh, that's great! I love it.
How was working with Conor McGregor? Was that fun?
Yeah, I was a little worried because I was trying to get in touch with him before. I'm like, is he going to be a diva? Is he going to be great? He worked so fucking hard. And I was just worried because he never shot. I looked at everything he shot, and it was always like promo stuff. So I was like, does he realize he's got to do like 10, 15 takes of stuff? And his fucking learning IQ was unbelievable because he got there, and there's certain things you just assume. And he had never even held a script in his hand, And the simplest lines, he's like, "How do I say that line?" I'm like, "Oh, wow, I got to give him like 101, And I would tell him he would do it. Then I was, Lovitz is in John Lovitz, the comedian. I don't know if he was the guy that sang in The Wedding Singer. He's the other singer.
Yeah.
Right.
He's in it, and I've worked with him a ton of times. I'm like, "Lovitz, do it again. He's like, "Wait, you do it a bunch of times. Why?" He's like, "To get in the rhythm of By the end of the first day, he went from a guy that didn't know how to read a script right to like fucking getting it. Like he was funny. I go, "Dude, you're funny. I know. So trust me, you're going to," and he's fucking hilarious in these spots. And like, I want to do a movie with him because he's totally got the charisma. And I think he'd be great in an action movie, him and The Rock or something would be great to take the piss out of each other or something. Yeah, it was really cool. They're called, it was for a Pegasus. It was for a horse race. It was the biggest purse horse race in the world. And so he becomes a jockey. And it's 4 skits leading up to the big race, and he literally ends up getting pulled off his horse because he wears this lucky scarf, and he wins the race on foot against of thoroughbreds on a real track. So I mean, he literally had to sprint the track in that heavy mud over and over, and it was great because he was in shape. He was so good. He was so cool to work with. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we'll get him in a movie.
Yeah.
The voice is obviously one of the first things you associate with The Waterboy. I know you referenced kind of the character. Was that always going in? He was going to be doing that voice as the character?
So Sandler did on the album we worked on, the stuttering Southerner. There was a little of that, and then there was a little bit of Canteen Boy with the guy who take you kind of, and so he sort of, we took him from a few characters, but I got to say the first preview of the movie, we thought it was really funny that he stuttered a lot. He stuttered so much that like our first score was like super low, and so we went back in the editing room and we just we kept it just, it was just every line was a stutter, and it was just risk, like, oh no. So we figured it out. We cut out a bunch and then saved it for mama said, mama said, mama said, mama said. Imagine the whole movie was that. You're like, but you learn, you live and learn.
Another thing that we read was that the stadium you use at DeLand High School, they essentially said that you could use the field if it was paid for to be refurbished after filming. Is that right, or is that another?
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff. I mean, the greatest thing is like if somebody wants to rent your house for a movie, like we've literally people like, can you move a wall and then repaint? I'm like, yeah, because the amount of money, we didn't have a lot of money on the Waterboy, but we had enough to donate to the school. So we love doing that kind of stuff. We love to like come in and use it and then give them what they need, because you kind of have to do a bunch of stuff anyway, so you might as well do what they want. But yeah, that was a fun field to shoot on. That was all in Florida, and it was good times there. They were nice people.
Another thing being that you almost doubled the hype for the film. That this was one of, I think, 3 films where they previewed the Phantom Menace trailer ahead of the movie. So they said that you had a load of Star Wars fans going in to see
I don't even remember that. It rings a bell slightly, but I probably didn't.
I was reading some news articles yesterday. And they were
but that is a little bit of, honestly, that is a little bit of the strategy when you there's some, you want to make sure there's a good trailer in front of your movie. There's a little of that. I don't get too involved in that. I kind of trust the powers that be, because I got enough to worry about with the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say, with this, you've got Kathy Bates in there, who's usually playing like very serious roles. I think this is her first credited film after Titanic, so she's going from Titanic to the Waterboy there. Did she have any reservations coming on and playing a completely different character? Was it like straight in and she's...
Well, first of all, we always would write actors we wanted, and this is the first time the person we wrote for said yes. We were like, what? Like, we always just have a pipe dream, and until later on, then we'd get the people we wanted. But at that point, Sandler had written a lot of people into different roles over the years, and they haven't done it. And Kathy Bates, a lot of the character is based a little bit. I mean, it was influenced by. She won the Academy Award for the Stephen King novel. She breaks
Misery.
It's definitely got that vibe.
So she was a little bit like, you dirty bird. Like a lot of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Like superstitious things you say, or pick up sticks. She was 66. Yeah. Like, so we kind of were influenced by that, but we thought, well, it was the comedy version, because in a weird way, if you could go back and watch Misery, she's great, but it is kind of funny if you're not watching the movie. She's a funny character, so we wrote it for her. Never thought she'd say yes. And what happened was, she has a great story she tells. Her niece was like, what scripts do you have? And, oh my God, Adam Sandler, I love Adam Sandler. So her niece was like, you have to do this movie. You have to. So she read it and thought, oh God, this is so stupid. And then she ended up thinking, maybe I could do this. And it was funny, because if you see Titanic, we were so excited when she said yes, because she's actually funny. If you see that movie, her character is not comedy, but she's a funny Texan. And so like, oh my God, she's good at being funny, but we knew she's a great actress. So when she did it, she was just outstanding. And I got a funny story, because normally actors don't come to dailies. Dailies is when you watch the footage back from the day before, and usually the crew's there. And the general rule is you don't want actors to see themselves, because they get self-conscious. But Kathy said, hey, do you mind if I come to the first couple of days of dailies? And I'm like, you're royalty, you're a pro. Like, you know better than me. She came and she literally laughed so hard she had to run out, and she peed herself on the way out. She was laughing. So she had like a fucking ball on the movie. But like, we were just like, oh my God, she's the greatest actress ever. Another really interesting story is, she got there and she had done movies with a lot of Southern accents, like Fried Green Tomatoes, and we shot, the first scene we shot with her is her in bed when she's going through the book and saying, that's your daddy, so handsome, that whole scene. And she was doing more of her Fried Green Tomatoes, kind of more refined Southern accent. And what happened in the course of the movie is Adam had, she got more of this New Orleans crazy accent through osmosis and getting the movie and getting looser with the comedy. And it was one of those, lucky things that it worked really great, that the scene she's more refined is when she's calmer and in the hospital, and all the earlier scenes that we shot later, she has the crazy, who'd you do, my boy? That kind of stuff. So like, it was just like one of those things that the film gods were on our side, and it shows what a great actress she is, and she quickly adapted to the crazy accent.
You teamed up, obviously Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore on your watch. This is also the first time that Rob Schneider's in a film with Adam Sandler there. So is he someone that you picked out and thought would be great together?
They go back. Sandler and Schneider go back to the SNL days, and they did so many skits together and so many things together. So it was just inevitable that we would have him, and he gets the comedy, and I think he's critics kill him too, but I'm gonna liken him to Pink Panther. What's his name? One of my greatest comedian actors ever.
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers. And I feel like he reminds me so much of him because Peter Sellers could embrace like a foreign guy and somehow bring some. Schneider's a genius, and I'm sure critics would fucking laugh my ass off at me, but he really has the ability. He anchors. He goes to a big character, but he becomes the guy.
Yeah.
He's always like in Click. He had to put a note. He likes to have something to become the guy. It just he reminds me of Peter Sellers. I know I'm going to get killed by some people saying, but I think he's that good. And yeah, so he was just a Cajun guy, and he was super fucking hilarious. And obviously his catch line that Tim Hurley wrote, which is "You can do it." It's become a part of the fabric of sports, and transcended sports is amazing when I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Click then, so you go into that like.
One last thing on the Waterboy. Did you notice that crazy actor that played Adam's dad at the end that shows up?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Just so you know, like I took a photo of myself that I'm in the book when she's going through. That's your dad. He's so handsome. I made the fucking grossest face I could ever make. A lot of chicks. And that was it. And the movie used to end with him winning the game. And the studio was like, look, people are loving the movie. We want to give you money to go and shoot another ending because they're not ready to leave. It's such a high note. And they were sitting around brainstorming, what could it be? What could it be? And then I was like, oh, fucking no. I know what the ending is. I'm like, that guy has to materialize. I'm like, this is really going to ruin my love life. So that was how that came, and then we shot it.
Nice.
Going into Click 10 years after doing The Wedding Singer, I wondered if anything changed with the way that you and Adam then worked together, because he's done plenty since then, you've worked since then, or is it just like you just click back in and everything's back as it was?
Me and him, we were friends, so we stayed in touch, and we grew. Was it that much longer? I'm not sure it was that much. It was in real time. We shot The Waterboy in '98, and we shot Click.
Oh yeah, sorry, after Wedding Singer.
So it's like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But the thing that changed was, we shot The Wedding Singer in 34 days. We shot The Waterboy in 42 days, which is relatively not many days at all. And suddenly I get to Click, and it's like, oh my God, this is what it's like to have a budget. We were shooting, instead of 5 pages a day, we were shooting 1 page a day. The budget was like $90 million. And, I had Academy Award winning DP. I had we could afford building sets that were insane. It was just like going from like indie filmmaking to like biggest Hollywood films at the time. So more than anything, it was like, we had more money and more time, and I could think bigger, so that was the biggest difference. But me and Adam's groove was always really good. And what was nice about that movie was, what wasn't nice is his dad had passed, but the intention was to make something that, was a bit more substance, a little more meaningful, and kind of just embracing the loss of Adam's dad. And obviously his dad was a big influence in his life his whole time, and he's the opening logo. I don't know if you know, that's who the guy is on Adam's Happy Madison logo. He always goes, terrific. That's his dad. So this movie was super important. I was honored to get to make a movie, and we took death head on, which is not an easy thing to do in a comedy. And we're editing it, and we're going, this is fucking great, people are gonna love it. And I remember the first preview, you're really cocky, until all of a sudden, I always, the first time an audience of people you don't know is going to see it. I always nobody knows who I am, so I can walk out and I always look at the line of 500 people that are about to basically determine what my life's going to be like, because however they rate it is how much the studio is going to be excited. So I walk down the line and there's just like 16-year-old kids with like Lakers jerseys and bandanas on their heads. I'm like, oh my God, these guys don't want to cry. This is the worst idea. I went from the most confident to like going in the back. I'm like, Sandler, we fucked up. We're dead. They're going to hate it. And I couldn't believe it. They cried and they liked it. So that was one of those, we took a chance and it worked, you know.
Well, yeah, I messaged both TK and Keenan after rewatching it again on Sunday night, and I said, I always wondered, because you kind of go into a comedy usually expecting just an easy laugh the whole way through, and this almost kind of like slaps you out of nowhere, and you're like, close to tears. So my question was going to be what the main thinking was towards it and how much of a risk it is, but I guess you.
Yeah, you know what? Some of the things, though, I think some of the way that helped. Look, for me, tone is everything, right? To me, the reason Quentin Tarantino is a genius is he found a way to mix violence and comedy. And maybe we forget now, but when he first did Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, it was something totally new. You know what I mean? It was like we hadn't seen anything quite like it. There'd been different people, but he and so. And it's funny, I don't think, because I do big comedies, people don't like to go, oh, the direction. But I think we found a good tone in things like The Wedding Singer and The Waterboy, in that the minute it gets a little schmaltzy or heartfelt, we make people laugh. They earn our trust, and then we go for it in the end, and they take the full ride because they go, we're in good hands. These guys aren't too corny. And I think what Click was like, okay, how do we get there? And I think part of what worked was, we kind of give you the dog dying earlier, and it's sort of an in-between. It kind of fucks you up that the dog's dead, and then we make you laugh with the little fucking pooch. And I feel like it was sort of a warm-up to go, guys, you're going to have some fucked up shit coming. You know what I mean? So I like to think it was, in a way, the Click, I feel like, was for myself as a challenge, was one of the bigger challenges ever, because it was a big, you know, I always go, it's a tough needle to thread to get people to laugh and deal with Henry Winkler and the choir, and you know, and Morty being the angel of death. You know, so for me, it's exciting that it worked, and I do. You never have favorites as a director, but I am really proud that one worked, because it was one of the bigger risks.
I think you mentioned trust, obviously, about the normal films. You trust that people think they're in good hands. I think the other way that Click manages to get through it without sort of ruining the other aspects of the film is it's an older Adam. So if you were trying to make Click in '98 with this young guy trying to do this, not as well known, I don't know if the reaction's the same, but I mean, by the time Click comes out, Adam Sandler is Adam Sandler. Like, he probably to the point that there's not a street he could walk down without someone stopping him. So there is a trust there, and it's to ease in and to know sort of what you're going to get. And so the twists, whilst they might be more shocking, you're in a safe pair of hands. There might be more violent twists, but you sort of know where you are at all times.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that's how you took it. And we try to make movies that are organic to our lives in a way, because like Blended, I know it's not on your list, but it's about a romantic comedy about two parents coming together. And it's like, I'm not a parent yet, but I've all my friends are, and Adam was. It's like, and Drew became a parent. So it's like you try to make movies you know about. You know what I mean? Like, I think Scorsese said, if you tell a story, tell a true story. You know what I mean? He said something like that. I'm getting the quote wrong, but I think your intentions are genuine. You know, obviously it takes some skill to learn the craft. I think is super important. You know, but then sometimes you just make a silly movie that, like The Waterboy, was just purely fun. But it was about bullying and not bullying, and it was about stuff that we felt passionately about. But it was, you know, it was more like, let's just make people laugh, you know, and lace in the themes that we know are a good message for you know, if a kid watches The Waterboy, I think they can walk away a little dumber, but a little bit better person.
I guess that being a little bit more serious and emotional in Click, were you excited to see Sandler sort of flex his acting muscle a bit more?
I knew he had it in him, but I felt honored to be the guy to direct
Display
it.
Yeah.
First movie where he literally had to make people cry, and you know, the scene when he finds out his dad died, and he missed it. You know what?
It's horrible.
It's horrible, but it was funny. Sandler, it's like he was great, and it was one of those days where it's like he couldn't cry, and we're trying everything, and I'm like, I know him so well, and he has a really dear, close relationship with his mom, and it's like, fuck, he's like, I don't know what to do, and I said, take a minute, take a breath, and then it just dawned on me, and I walked up to him, and I said, this is horrible, but I was like, your mother goes to bed every night missing your dad. And then he just started crying. I'm like, roll the cameras! Because his dad had passed away recently, you know, and I just knew that was the and he was happy that I did that, you know, because he was fucking crying.
It's a good job you got a close relationship.
But that's the beauty of knowing, you know, having the trust and knowing something. And I knew I wasn't going to get punched in the face for saying that. I wasn't 100% sure.
You mentioned Morty there. We've heard a few things about working with Christopher Walken. We've heard he's quite a character on set. He's got quite a dark sense of humor. How was it working with him?
He's fucking insane, and he's brilliant, and he's wonderful. He literally rehearses his lines really, really. Like, he literally, all those pauses, they're premeditated. Like, he knows his stuff inside and out. To me, the funniest thing was, like, when I first met him, we went to dinner, and I'm sitting there at dinner, and I have a tendency to, like, keep the conversation going. In the middle of his sentence, he would just stop talking and just stare. And in the beginning, I kept trying to fill the air. And then I realized, oh, no, this is never going to work, because you just start saying stupid shit. So I'm like, okay, if he stops talking, you stop talking. And so we have these conversations, and then we just both stop talking. We'd be in a restaurant, both just looking. He is really like a fucking alien, but he's brilliant, and he was great. And that's another case where we wrote the part for him, and I couldn't imagine. I don't know who could have done that role.
No,
you know, I mean, he was Morty. He's fucking great. He's weird and funny, and I was glad I got him to do a little dancing in there. You know, I had seen him my whole life. I watched him. A New York guy, King of New York is one of my favorite movies he was in. Like, everything he's done, even those music videos for Fatboy Slim, I don't know if you've seen him where he dances in those. He's so brilliant. It was fun to get to work with him, man. He's fucking kooky. I think he's an alien, for sure.
Mention some of the trivia you get on IMDb. I mean, you've quashed some of them. They say that reportedly you had lined up Drew Barrymore for the role of that Kate Beckinsale takes in Click. Is that accurate, or
that's
is that another
not
one?
Accurate. No. I'll tell you when there are. There's some stuff I read that's true. That one's not true either. We were like, wow, we got Kate. She's hot. She's funny as fuck, though. She's a Brit, you know, so she's smart and funny, and she can roll with the boys. She'll tell a good fart joke. By the way, her American accent though was great. You know, that's not easy to do.
No.
You know, but you Brits are better at it than we are doing your accent. We Dick Van Dyke it.
You said about the soundtrack of The Wedding Singer earlier, and ever since I watched Click, I've had Linger by the Cranberries stuck in my head. I can't get it out at all. And then,
great song.
Is she in the film at the wedding, or
sadly she passed recently. Rest her soul. She was amazing. It was just like Sandler had loved that song, and he picked that song and said, why don't we get her to sing it? And I'm like, it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't matter. In the movie you just think she's a singer. But yeah, she did it. God, I'm blanking on her name. She was great.
Dolores.
Dolores. Yeah, we were just psyched that she did it, and so sad she's gone. I guess she's had the depressed thing going, clinically depressed, and but yeah, it was cool to have her sing that song, and to me it was like her words, it just made that scene even more emotional, you know.
Yeah,
it was cool.
The concept with the universal remote, I guess, is so many different paths you could have taken with it. Is there anything that you filmed that stands out that didn't make it to the film that you look back on and think it was funny, but just didn't make the final cut?
Oh yeah, you know, there's some good. It's funny. Recently, I was watching some of the outtakes that I forgot. There's a scene when Sandler's fat. My God, when I think of the scene now, would never get away with it. With me too. And you remember the two hot girls that work for his boss, Amer?
Yeah.
Work for David Hasselhoff. After the remote and that whole scene when you realize he's fat, he wakes, the two girls pop out of bed. He was having a threesome with them. And it's just like, it's so hilarious. I forgot how funny it was, but it was just a bridge too far. You know what I mean? It was just like, nobody wants to think about that big fat guy having a threesome. But we would have got crushed now, I think. It's funny how time changes things. That was pretty funny. And there's another scene with Terry Crews on the way home, because if you remember, he's singing. And on the way home, they see each other again, and they end up going like, ah, and they sing a song together. That was, it's just like, you just, when you cut stuff out, it doesn't mean it's bad. It means you just, you have luckily enough good stuff that you don't need it. But it is fun to watch. I was shocked. There was a couple other ones. It's worth, for you guys, if you watched it and enjoyed it, it's worth getting extra scenes. I think they're probably, I'm trying to think of how I saw them. I probably have them on my computer, but they are pretty fun to watch now if you like the movie. So
you said about comedy changing there, and it's been a lot more in the most recent years. Did you sense that anything had changed between Wedding Singer and Click that you could do then, or was it still just all par for the course?
Here's a really interesting thing. Hollywood Reporter did a story on, and this is going to shock you, because on the Wedding Singer, and they weren't really ripping on us, but they go, the scene, and it's shocking because the tensions of the scene are so sweet and nice, but we couldn't do it now. When they're at the bar mitzvah and the boy drops his hands down, and then Adam takes a 13-year-old and we're like, oh my God, like, and obviously you even see the movie now, you don't even think about it, but if it came out now, we couldn't do that. It makes me try to analyze, like, wow, what changed? Because I know the intention of that was not bad, and no one got any bad feeling, zero, no one. But I don't know what happens if a 13-year-old girl sees it now. Did she see it and go, that's right? I don't know how it's a phenomenon to think.
Yeah.
How that, I don't think this guy right here would do that again, even with that intention. And so I don't know how to, it makes me go like, as a filmmaker, how do you prevent yourself from doing something that 20 years from now? It's really amazing how the mores can literally shift in our lifetime.
I think if we start trying to predict trends, like you say, trying to do something that you can't, we might as well just pack it in and go home, because you can't. Like,
comedy's for sure. Because the whole thing about comedy is you push it right to the edge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you take a chance with any to be the best, like you say, to push it to the edge. You take the chance that it might become distasteful, but in the moment, do you really? How worried are you about something that you've done in the past becoming distasteful if it's received well at the time?
I don't really. In the moment, when you're doing something and you try to push things to the edge. But again, a lot of it is intention. It's like Harvey Weinstein 14 years in jail for not being funny, for doing horrible stuff, and but like some comedians that have said stuff, you're like, see how they rebound from what they did, see what their remorse is, see what their intention was, and I think you can't put people in jail for life, in symbolic jail, unless they literally, obviously cross the line. I mean, you can't. I'm saying you can't compare the rapey stuff with a comedian saying something.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Especially if he retracts it and says, yes, when I said, and my intentions were this, or now I realize even my intentions were bad. Louis C.K. did a bunch of stuff that he's basically said the right things now about, everyone I asked to whack off, they said yes, but now I realize that doesn't make it okay. It's the right response. I'm not saying anything he did is right. I'm just saying his intentions and his remorse is what you want to hear from people.
I always think it's quite interesting. You said about sort of going to call it cultural jail or whatever it might be. I also think it's interesting that there seems to be a different. There's always a different time limit. Most people seem to bounce back unless it's a physical crime. Most people will bounce back.
I hope so. I want to believe that. I mean, you look at the old James Bonds with Sean Connery, and you're like, holy fucking shit! You're like, he literally like slaps girls on the ass, and like, you know, it's like you're like, holy shit! I grew up on that shit, and I didn't even realize.
No, I mean,
like, you know. I'm glad that's not around. I'm not like, yeah, that should be that. Like, I think it's disrespectful, and I guess it's good that we progress. And sometimes we go far, but usually there's a reason. The pendulum swings too far. It's because it was so fucked up. So I'm okay with it. I just don't want to hold people for life in jail, in moral jail or whatever you called it. That was a good term you said. What'd you call it?
I called it cultural jail, but moral jail is
very good. It's very good.
It's part of the culture. James Bond's a great example because even the films were toned down version of Ian Fleming's James Bond. There were still things that they couldn't put in the films they were making in the 60s that are in the original books. Like there's a lot more of a darker character and with a lot more prejudice. So it's funny how even that 20 years on when they made Dr. No, it was like, oh, I don't think we can do this now. So it's an ever-shifted landscape.
I remember seeing a news story 5 years ago where they were saying they wanted James Bond to start using a condom and they wanted to have a shot. And the rapper there because they wanted to really make James Bond responsible.
I like that. That's funny. That's a funny too, though. That's fine. Idris Elba going to be the next James Bond? That would be fucking cool. I heard rumors.
I'd love that.
I think we all would, right?
He's such a boss.
Except the assholes in America.
Yeah, I was going to say. There's people over here as well. It's not just there.
God, that's happening all over the world. Fucking crazy race popping up.
Thank you for giving us so much of your time today.
Thanks a lot.
Really
cool,
appreciate
man.
it.
I hope that was good for you guys. And
brilliant.
Thank you so much. I'm honored that you put 3 of my movies, man. That's
thank you.
That's cool. It makes me sleep good at night. All right, cool. Good luck with everything. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You too. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.